Thank you for tuning in to the BHLC podcast this evening. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I got a great show for everybody tonight. I'm excited as usual. I'm down here at 21st Germantown, 1481 South Shelby Street. They got a lot of great things going on tonight. They got karaoke and they got a DJ. If you get here before 10 o'clock, you can get in for $5. But if you get here after midnight, it's $10. So come in, and they got a lot of drink specials. They got a drink special called LIT for $5. A drink special called $5 called marijuana. I don't know nobody can get marijuana for $5. I'll be all over that one. So I guess it'll help you live. It's called marijuana. You get for $5. I guess like getting a nickel bag or something back in the day. So, but come down here and support what they're doing. They got great food, and great drinks. So come down and support what they're doing here tonight. And like I said, it gets started about, I guess, 9, 8 o'clock. Okay, got to go over this. One or two of my little sponsors here. My first one is my niece is Nicole Scott Incorporated. Nicole Scott Incorporated. NICOLE Scott SCOTT Incorporated. She has a lot of clothes. She has this clothing line for all diverse, all sexes. So just Nicole Scott Incorporated. Just hit that link and go buy something from her. She's always got all type of clothes for all type of people. So she's very diverse with her clothing, and you will enjoy it. Okay, my other one is my dentist. That's right, Dr. Kane, the Smile Center, 7405 LaGrange Road here in Louisville, Kentucky. Go check him out. He's real good. He's real reasonable, and you can tell him I sent you. That don't mean you're gonna get too much of a discount, but but just tell him I sent you. The BHLC or the Big Head Light Skin Comedian sent you. Now, also, make sure you subscribe to this podcast. It's on YouTube, BHLC Podcast on YouTube. Subscribe. And also, I'm on my Facebook page, which is Big Ed Light Skin Comedian LB. Send me a friend request, add me so you can watch me on there too and watch me on there. Give me a listen, a share, or something, subscribe. Also, I'm on Spotify. So whenever you just mess around not doing nothing at work, which I know some of y'all do that a lot, go to Spotify and BHLC Podcast and give me a listen. I really appreciate it. Okay, let's make sure I got everything covered. I think I got everything covered. Yeah, it's just about everything. I think so. Also, too, just being the month of April, there's a lot of different awarenesses going on. It's awareness for autism, for alcohol, and I think it's for sexual harassment, too. So all three of them are combined for Awareness Month here in April. Okay. Now, without further ado, I got to give my guest his proper intro. We go way back. When I was first got into this entertainment business, doing stand-up comedy, being a stand-up comedian, it was a lot of things I was into. And even then, I was trying to get into acting too, because I used to act at the Macaulay Theater. But I needed to polish my skills a little bit. And I had a friend that turned me on to a guy that was teaching acting and everything. And so I went to his acting school and everything, and he really showed me a lot of things and helped me out with some of the movies I got out now. I told you I got one of the top underground movies out there right now that I played general manager. So, but he really helped me out with his acting. Really good person. I'm gonna let him elaborate a little more because he's got so much going on, and he's based right out of here in Louisville, Kentucky. Because there's a lot of talent right here in Louisville, Kentucky. We all know Jennifer Lawrence came from here, so need I say more? But I got to give him his proper introduction because he's been doing this for a while and he's very good at it. And I'm going to let him tell a little bit about himself anyway when he first get on here. So y'all give a big BLC podcast welcome to my good friend Vin Morale. Make sure I say that right too, Vin Morale. Did I say
Morielli,
right?
actually.
Morelli, Vin Morelli. I'm sorry.
You know, us Italians, we love vowels.
Right,
so just throw a vowel in the end, Morielli.
Vin Morelli. Okay, I got you now. Man, thank you for being on my podcast. I really appreciate it. I'm sure my subscribers will too, because I know you got a lot to talk about with what you're doing. But the way I always start my podcast too is a little bit I like people to tell what they do and what you're just tell them a little bit about yourself and what you're doing here, and as far as what you're doing, because I didn't go too deep into what you do, so because I want you to tell a little bit about it.
It's a little bit scary, all the things that I do. Over the years. Mm-hmm. I'm a writer, director, producer, actor, acting teacher, former stuntman, former comedian. I've had stage plays that have been done in 16 countries now. over 1,000 productions. I've produced and directed 4 feature films,
Wow.
um, and over 1,000 commercials and short films and documentaries, a little bit of everything.
Oh, wow.
Went from Boston to San Francisco to Los Angeles, and now out in
Mhm.
Louisville, Kentucky.
Man, I'm so glad to have you on my podcast, man, because
Thank you.
I've always said, I'll never forget going in your class, and you were so thorough, and this was a great acting class. It really was. And a lot of people nowadays, especially here in Louisville, there's a lot of talent, but they don't know where to get started at. So that's why I want to ask you this question. One thing before I start off with, it's kind of a question slash comment, more or less, but because I know you, like you said, you wear a lot of hats.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put it on the screen here, and I really want to, so the people can see what started you in entertainment? Because I know everybody started somewhere. So what got you really going to get in entertainment? That's why I always wanted to know from you.
Actually, I started out in Boston. I'm a Boston boy.
Okay,
Used
all
to
right,
talk
East
like this,
Coast. Right.
up in the Northeast. We used to talk
Okay.
fast.
Okay.
Um, and I started out as an actor, just doing things in high school and everything like that. And
Okay.
actually ended up with some comedy on a radio show.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then went to college actually for pre med, but
Wow.
I fell in love with writing.
Mm.
And, the first play I had was done with the Boston College Children's Theater. And after I graduated from college, I thought, well, I'm going to give this a try for a little bit. So I
Right.
went out to San Francisco and figured I'd just be there for 6 months. But my first stage play was published, and I had a comedy group that went on actually national radio.
Mm-hmm.
And I had, 10 movie contracts signed for scripts I wrote. And I was like, whoa, hey, I could do this. This,
Yeah.
this strange dream suddenly became real. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but of course, in typical Hollywood fashion, what looks good for a while
Right.
doesn't necessarily translate. I had an agent who talked me into going down to LA,
Uh-huh.
said I was going to be the next king of Hollywood.
King
Um,
of Hollywood. Okay.
and yeah, at one, I did sell some things to national TV, some scripts. And
Mm-hmm.
what happened was I sort of built the career in stages.
Mm-hmm.
I started writing just because I was writing stuff for me as an actor. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd write either comedy sketches or plays that this little Italian guy from Boston could star in. And
Right.
people liked the writing. And then people came to me and said, "Oh, I like the script. I like you as an actor. If only we had a director." So I'd
Okay.
just say, "Well, okay, I'll direct it." Um, and then people liked me as a director. And then they said, "Oh, this is great. You've got all the things. If only we had a producer."
Mm.
So I became a producer.
Right. Right.
And,
Right.
little by little, everything started to happen. And I got into casting as a casting director
Uh,
because people kept on looking at the stuff I produced and said, "Wow, you get some great actors. How do you do it?" And I said,
mm.
"Well, I sort of dawned on me that I can make some money on this, just showing, the talent to other people."
Right.
Um,
Right.
and I've been teaching about 45 years now. So
Mm.
that's sort of fun.
That's great, man. I mean, because oh my God, I know you've had your hands on so much, and you wore a lot of different hats, man. And man, I just know you've done so much. You've had, like I said, you've had a lot of stuff, different movies, writing, and one thing, especially like you said, I wanted you to even elaborate a little bit more on Academy Arts because I was sitting there looking at your page, and I think it's so great, Academy Arts. I see where you just recently had a class that got through teaching them some acting skills, and
Today,
huh?
today,
You had one
I
today.
just,
Well, I seen where you had one last week where you're
yep.
teaching them acting skills. So how did that go? Because you said between young and people got to realize you don't have to just be young people. You can be middle age or older. As far as when it comes to acting. So how did that go?
That's what I try to do is
Hmm.
I try to make the classes good for everybody. Now there are some people who will take them because they want to be an actor. That's their goal. And
Right,
some people will take it because this is just something they always wanted to do for fun.
right.
So we have people in, some are professionals. They've done a lot of work on commercials and movies, and some
Mm,
are brand new. And I
right.
like the fact that I can pull them all together in a class. As I said, if my voice goes, it's because I just finished a 5-hour acting class today that I
Oh
was
wow.
teaching.
Yeah.
And, we had about 20 people. And again, all different ranges in terms
Mm.
of the skill level, and
Right.
getting them all to work together is an exciting thing.
Oh
You
yeah.
know,
Oh
people
yeah.
get to have this experience because
Hmm.
that's what it's like when you audition for a movie or a TV thing. You don't
Hmm.
know what the other actors in your scene are going to be like. You know, maybe they're really amazingly talented,
Hmm.
and maybe this is their first time and they're nervous as hell as they go through.
Right.
You've got to get used to acting with everybody and still make an impression. So
Right.
I try to create that in the acting classes, and it's about as fun for me as it is for them.
Hmm. You know, like I said, I remember I got into acting when I was about a teenager, around between 14 and 17 years old at the Macaulay Theater downtown on 4th Street, which I'm sure you remember that. And we
Sure,
used to do them live plays, different plays we would do live. And I guess I'm just saying, speaking about myself in general, the one thing I got out of acting more than anything was it just made me feel better because I love the animation, the energy, the persona, everything about it I loved, and I just loved it, and I was addicted to it. I really was. So once I started doing it, I wanted to learn more about it, and I got to learn more about it. But I knew too also it's not an easy craft. You have to really, really be serious about that craft if you want to be somebody in acting. Um, Learned a lot from a lot of different actors. The actors that was older than me taught me things. Your acting class taught me a lot, and now I'm to the point where, like I said, I did about, I guess in my I do more stand up than acting. I got about 5 to 7 movies out there, but
great.
it's like I just love acting. And it was my first love. Acting was my first love over stand up. People see me on stage and be laughing, but they don't realize acting was my first love. So with that said, but even with that said, you was just saying something that Renaissance with me because I want you to tell the people a little bit about that part. You said some people was brand new. What advice would you give to people who are starting out in acting? Because I know when I was brand new, it was wide open. It was wide open to me, and it's different now. We live in a different generation. I get that, different time. But I know it was wide open because it was so much to learn back then about acting to me. I'm talking, I don't want to tell my age, but it was back then. So with that said,
Back
but
in the good old days, yeah.
yeah, right, yeah, back in the old days, yeah. But I know you said you had some brand new actors. So what advice would you give somebody who's just start acting? Would you give to them?
That is my advice. Just start acting.
Yeah.
The big thing in life is that, and it's not just acting. It's a little bit of everything.
Yes.
Too many people will tell you you can't do something.
Yeah, they
You know,
will.
and sometimes it's people who tell you that because they failed at it, so they say it's
Yeah.
impossible. I'm sure how many people told you about stand up being too difficult, and yet you went
Yeah.
out and you proved it. You
Yeah.
know, the thing I like to tell my class is that you act every day of your life. I mean, you are different to different people. You don't talk to your friends the same way you talk to your parents. You don't
Right.
talk, you get pulled over by a cop, you're not going to talk differently to that
Mhm.
cop as you would to, someone from your old school, that kind of thing.
Right.
You talk to your boss differently, than you talk to your kids. Uh,
Hmm.
we are so many different things to so many different people. And we don't
Right.
even realize we're acting in many ways, but it becomes us,
Right.
when we do that. And it's all part of our personality. And that's okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Um, if you're a teacher, you're an actor. If you're a doctor, you're an actor. When you're on stage as stand-up, you're playing a character. Now,
Yeah.
the character can come from you, but
Hmm.
you've created that character to play, and that's what the
Right.
audience really identifies with. They love that, and they laugh with you
Right.
because you're pulling things out of them.
Yes.
And that's what acting does. Is it allows us to connect with
Yeah.
people, and especially in movies, with people you'll never meet,
Right.
and
Hmm.
you'll connect with them, and they will feel something because of what you gave them.
Right.
They'll laugh, or they'll cry, or they'll just be pumped up because you've given an action scene or something like that. That's a
Right.
gift that
That
you can
is.
give to people, and that's pretty cool.
It is really cool. And well, you know what's really cool? Like I said, and I've met some nice big time comedians and met some big time actors too before in my career of entertainment. And with
Mhm.
that said, Everybody's different. I tell people that, everybody's different in their own way. Yeah, I know some people say, well, this person's got a nasty personality. This person was rude to me, talking about certain actors and stand-up comedians. I said, but the main thing people got to remember, they're human beings before they anything. You're a human
Absolutely.
being, and you have to remember that sometimes you got to, they just might have caught them at the wrong time. Not all actors have bad attitudes. Not all stand-up comedians have bad attitudes. Um, I met Jamie Foxx when he came here a long time ago, when he first started doing stand-up. He stopped and talked to me and everything. So I tell people, you just never know. I've met all type of them. I've met different stand-up comedians too. It's just I tell people, so don't take it wrong if somebody say, hey, I don't want to talk right now. I want to give you an autograph. I want to shake your hand. Because some people get starstruck and some people don't say nothing. And I know you've met some people too
Oh, yeah.
in your lifetime too. What was it? What was that like meeting the people who are stars or whatever?
Well, it's really cool because, as you say, everybody's different.
Yes.
That holds true for actors too. I worked with Al Pacino and
Okay.
Russell Crowe, and Academy Award winners John Voight. I did 4 movies with him, at
Great.
different points. And
Yeah.
some of the people are just nice. Kurt Russell, and was one of the nicest guys,
Hmm.
and you just appreciate that. And then
Yeah.
some people, I was
Yep.
I helped cast a movie where, and I'm not going to mention her name, but
Okay.
a famous
That's fine.
star,
Right.
and her thing was "Don't look me in the eye."
Mm.
So I had
Okay.
to have my actors walk across the scene where they actually, walk in front of her, and then as soon
Hmm.
as they got near her, they had to look down or look away.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
sad.
Yeah. I
That's
know.
that's ego. But when you meet some of these other people and they're so nice,
Yes.
it sort of
Right.
makes up for that.
Yeah. It does.
And sometimes they can't help being a little standoffish because a lot of times in the movies they're memorizing their lines at that time.
Yes. Yes.
What a lot of people don't realize is every day in a movie you get what's called the sides, which is a small piece of the script, and they're
Hmm.
learning those that day. So
Right.
when 10 or 20 people come up to them and say, can I talk to you, it's right now they're just worried about remembering all their lines. Where am
Yeah.
I supposed to be standing in that thing?
Hmm.
um, but some people are just great about it, and
Yep.
some people, this is a business with egos. You know that in comedy too.
Oh
some
yeah. Oh yeah.
some
It is.
people, they're running on ego overdrive.
Right. Yeah. Everybody's ego. You got some egos that are bigger than themselves, and they don't even realize it sometimes. But some people you don't who have small egos. It just depends. And you talking about that memorizing your lines. I think that's one of the I ain't gonna say the toughest thing, but I ain't gonna even say the hardest thing to learn. But knowing your lines is one thing, delivering it is another. And I had to learn the difference.
Right.
Knowing your lines is one thing, delivering is another. And putting animation, when to pause, different things. And people don't know that. That's why I really, really appreciate the actors I see, whether it's on TV and movies. I know what they're going through to deliver. And it's not easy. And I've had an actor on my podcast, and he was saying a lot of different things. And it's not easy. And he said a lot of family members got mad at him because he was so much into this role. He had to be this role. They couldn't understand when he was talking to him. He was still in that role, playing that role mentally, because he said he wanted to
Mhm.
make sure he do a good job for the movie and everything. So, and I told him, so I get that because you become that person. You are not yourself no more. You become that role you are playing. So I tell people it is not easy. Like I said, delivering them lines and acting them. Acting's not. If it was easy, everybody could do it. That's what I tell people.
I don't know. I feel everybody does do it. I think
But everybody, yeah,
everybody
but
does
you
it
know what
to
I'm
a
saying, in front of the
certain way.
camera. Let me
Yeah,
say it in front of the spotlight.
yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
what happens that makes it difficult for some people is
Okay.
they're watching themselves. It's just,
Okay.
I'm so afraid of doing badly. I'm so afraid of forgetting
Hmm.
this line that they stiffen up. You know,
Yep.
um, think about probably the first time you hit the stage. When you did your
Ooh,
thing, it's
ooh,
just like
ooh,
you tense
ooh.
up, and
That's
then after a
stressful.
while, when you get used to it,
Yeah.
you calm down, and then you get that flow, and you're connecting with the audience, and you're just
Yep.
feeling good, and it's like part of you just glows out there, and the audience feels it, and they give you
Right.
the love back. It's the same with acting. The more you do, the
Mhm.
easier it gets.
Yes, I
you know
agree.
well, another thing to think of is when you first started learning to drive a car.
Hmm.
You get in there, and it's like all these different things. Your eyes are on the road, you're looking at this mirror. Oh no, I didn't put this on. And then Uh, you're driving down the freeway and suddenly two semi trailers come on both sides of you
Yeah.
when you're just
Yep.
a new driver and you're going like, oh
Right.
no, I'm gonna die. And then after you've been driving for a while, you don't even think about it.
Right.
You're throwing 3,000 tons of steel 80
Ooh,
miles an hour down the freeway, and you're
right.
just listening to your tunes.
Yeah.
You're not even thinking about it because
Hmm.
you've done it so much. Well,
Yeah.
that's what acting can be like. You just, at first, it's going to be a little bit scary. First,
Hmm.
you got to learn some basics. And then after a while, it's just giving yourself permission to just go and enjoy it.
Yeah. And you hitting home on that too, because one of the last movies I did with this entertainment group, I never forget it. And I play, like I said, I played like the manager, general manager of a hotel. I was so much into my role, and this happens. You know, this doing acting. It happens. I was so much in my role, and of course, I had my lines memorized. The guy I was talking to, he just started laughing. He said, "Stop!" He said, "Stop filming, man." He said, "He's got me laughing too much." I said, and it
I
happens.
love it.
I say, because you gonna do a lot of takes, and you know that. He said, "Lovers, you are crazy." He said, I gotta remember you being you actually this character. He said, "Because man, you had me down." He said, "Let me get back in the character." I said, "No, it happens." I said, "Man, it's all good," because I was really into the character, and it happens. You
Beautiful.
have different takes here and there because one person will be like just start laughing out of nowhere, and you've seen the short takes after a movie or whatever it is. You'd
Oh,
be like,
yeah.
"Oh my god." And then them, that's what I like more than anything. The takes they show after somebody's made a movie, whatever, them are so beautiful because people be laughing and say, "Stop, stop it!" I can't.
We've
No,
all been there. We get on something and just, it just strikes you as funny and doesn't
yeah,
matter that the cameras are all there. You're just
yeah,
you're just enjoying it.
just enjoying it. That's it. And that's why I want to ask you too. Is another question. What do you is there? What do you enjoy in filming? Because I know you do filming. What do you mostly like enjoying doing filming?
Oh man, I got to be honest, I love it all.
Do you?
Now just this past 6 weeks,
Okay.
I did 3 different movies.
Wow.
Big
Mm,
SAG features, so they're
okay.
all anywhere from $2 to $5 million. Okay,
Mm, okay.
um, and 2 of them I did extras casting. So I put, in one of them I put about 800 people in.
Mm,
So
wow.
they got they got they make like $100 for the day, but they
Okay.
got to be on a movie set. They got to see some
Amazing.
stars and everything, and they,
Yes.
they love it. But I also had a speaking role in there, so I'm
Okay.
casting people. I'm doing a speaking role at the same time. There was a Hallmark movie
Hmm.
shooting in Louisville
Right.
that I had 40 people there. So on one set, I had in one particular day, I had to memorize my lines, do a scene while I've got 200 extras that I cast for that movie and 40 for the other movie, and I'm coordinating getting everybody to
Mm.
the right place at the different times. And I just love it. It's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is cool.
Yeah.
I'm in Louisville. I'm doing this.
It's right. And
When I
you
was in LA, that was
talk about.
something, but I'm out here doing this. This is
Yes, and
golden.
that's beautiful because the people that's watching this podcast, I want them to realize if you want to get started in doing acting, you have to be an extra. You have to start bare minimum, and that's what people have to realize when you do it. Matter of fact, I got somebody right now comment Tab T. I see you, Tab T. She's steadily putting names on here for people to come. I guess come to your Academy Awards, and she's throwing all these names out. Bloopers are funny. She
Love it.
said James Watts. She got different names. She's saying they need to come to your Academy Arts. So, but
The nice thing
somebody
is,
commenting, yeah.
yeah,
But I see you, Tab T. But yeah, I tell people so. Even just being an extra, I've been extras. I've done it all. I really have. So you have to start somewhere. Some of the biggest stars were extras. People
absolutely.
don't realize that. I
You
mean,
know,
they was extras. That's what I
they
tell
all they all came from that.
them. Right.
It's like being a comedian. You get you start at the
Yes.
open mic nights. You know,
Exactly. Yeah.
you get to know what to do. And the nice thing about being an extra, when I first came to town, and I've been in Kentucky about 30 years now.
Hmm.
When I first came to town, nobody was paying their extras anything. It
Okay.
was like
Right.
they expected you to do them a favor to be in a movie. And
Yeah.
little by little, I pushed that up.
Hmm.
First it was gas money, and then it was $50, and then it was minimum wage, and now, I pretty much got it set for $100 a day, which
Right.
it's not bad because, hey, you get to be on a movie set. They feed you. You get
Right.
to hang around with a bunch of people doing, fun stuff. There's a lot of waiting involved. But the
Right.
important thing about being an extra is you learn what to do on a movie set and what not to do. You get to watch it coming through. A lot of people think, well, I'm in this movie and, this is a 10-second scene or a 30-second scene, where a car is
Mhm.
going down the road and people are waving at us. Like, yeah, that's a 30-second scene when it hits the screen, but
Right.
that may take them 10 hours to shoot.
There it is. Right.
People don't realize everything
I
that goes
know.
in and that there's 43 people in the crew, everything from makeup and hair to sound to props to
Everything
art
structured.
department,
Everything structured.
pulling that all together.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
if you've never seen that, that's fun to realize the magic of it all.
Right. And I tell people when they get on set, when you go to a movie set, don't think you're just going to be there for an hour and that's it. You may be there for a while because everything has to come together and it's everything's structured with timing and everything. You can't think it's just going to happen within 15 minutes. Don't work like that.
Yeah,
Do
it's
not work
it's a
like it. Like you
long
said,
day.
it takes time and you have to have a lot of patience. I tell people when you get on set, don't think it's just going to be like that. You got to have patience and be ready to, like I said, be ready to do your part, of course, deliver and all that. But you got to have a lot of patience because you're going to be there for a while and you have to understand that. And this part, but like you said, I'm glad you said that because you might see somebody for 1 minute in a movie, but like you said, it might take 10 to 12 hours to get that 1 minute. And people
Mhm.
don't realize that. And it's something else I want to ask you about. And I know it's starting to become real. I ain't gonna say saturated, but there are hidden spots here in Louisville, Kentucky, and Kentucky period, and doing more filming, whether
Yeah,
they from Georgia, California, Texas, whatever. But my
absolutely.
question to you is this: more than anything, is I know most time when they come, they got to get a permit to shoot at certain spots here in Louisville. You talk about that a little bit. Well, anywhere in Kentucky, this is
Sure.
not just Louisville.
Like there's a good example. There was a movie called Muzzle
Okay.
that we shot in 2022. I actually worked on 10 different movies in 2022. I was
Wow.
pretty tired after that.
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
that
that was
was
a
a
good
tough
year.
year, but a fun year.
Right.
Um, Aaron Eckhart was the guy who played Two-Face in Batman:
Yeah.
The Dark Knight.
Okay.
So and a
Yes.
good actor. He's been in probably 60, 70 movies.
Right.
But
Okay.
the movie itself was
Hmm.
supposed to be set in L.A.
Okay.
He's a cop in LA and he's got a canine, and that's why they call it Muzzle. He's got a police dog, and
Okay.
police dog gets killed, and he's got to get another one that's going through.
Hmm.
But Kentucky has a film tax credit of 30%,
Mm.
which means that if a movie
Mm.
shoots here,
Okay.
they can get 30% of the money they spend in Kentucky back.
Oh,
So if
okay.
you're doing a movie and you drop, any movie, you're going to be
Movie
watching your
budget.
budget pretty carefully.
Right.
But suddenly, you drop 1 million here and you can
Hmm.
get $300,000 check back. That's going to help you.
Yes.
So I was on that one. I did quite a number of different things. I was
Mm.
extras casting. I was also casting a lot of the speaking roles,
Okay.
and I did location scouting for it. So I had to find places in Louisville that could
Hmm.
pass for LA,
Okay.
which was sort of cool. So
Hmm.
what they ended up doing was they ended up shooting just 2 or 3 days in Los Angeles and doing some of the landmarks.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then we went all over downtown Louisville and some other places to,
Mm.
to actually shoot all the scenes. So
Okay.
90% of the time you're thinking you're in LA,
Hmm.
that's all Louisville. And they saved a ton of money by doing it that way. And it
Right.
was, pretty exciting that we got to do that here. We got to blow up a car on,
Mm.
I think that was uh, close to River Road. We got to blow up a car. That was
Right.
fun.
That's great. That's
Um,
great.
we had fire departments in there and everything, and that one was cool too because
Mm.
I got to bring them to the canine units. So we got to work with the actual canine police, and I got to see
Wow.
how those, how the cops work with those dogs, and those dogs are like incredibly amazing.
Smarter
To
than some
watch
human
them work.
beings.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't want to mess with them. I'll tell you that.
Right.
So
Yeah.
if a police canine's coming after you, stop what you're doing and
Yeah.
just stand there because you don't want this thing ripping your arm off. But they are smart and they worked perfectly for the movie. They're so well trained.
Hmm.
Um, and it's a movie that made it into the theaters and
That's
went
great.
around the world. And then I think that's the sequel they shot in South Africa, which was too bad. But
Okay.
we did a lot of movies here. which
I
is sort
just
of
think
cool.
it's, man, that's so great because at one time, and you know this as long as you've been doing what you've been doing, I'm gonna say this was virgin territory as far as filming to get covered nationwide. It was virgin
Yeah.
territory. Now it's not like that. It's kind of like, but it's kind of like my stand-up comedy. At one time, it was only certain spots you could go do open mic at stand-up
Right.
comedy, one or two spots. Now it's oversaturated. You can go almost anywhere. I tell people
Which is good because it gives more people opportunities. When I
exactly,
first came here,
exactly.
anything shot in Kentucky had to be about, you know, bourbon,
Yeah,
rednecks, or horse
yep,
racing. And
yep.
that was it. If you didn't have one of those three, they weren't going to shoot a movie here.
Right.
And one of the things I sort of promised myself, at least for my movies especially, is,
Hmm.
I wasn't going to do a movie that would look down on Kentucky. You know,
Right.
coming
Hmm.
from Boston, California, and everything like that, you have an image of
Hmm.
Kentucky
Okay.
that a lot of the media just presents as stereotypes.
They
You know,
sure
and
do.
and that's a shame because
Yep.
we've got a lot here. We've got some beautiful places to shoot.
Yes.
Louisville's actually a pretty cosmopolitan city like
Yes,
that.
it is.
You've got some great people with great talent, and so many different things. So once they started passing the tax credit,
Hmm.
now we have movies that don't have to be about just those three things. Now
Right.
you have movies that could be shot anywhere, but they choose to shoot it here, which is
Hmm.
great for local actors because it gives them
Yep.
opportunities. It's great for local crew. If you're a cameraman or something like that,
Yep.
now you get a chance to work out here instead of having to leave the state. Um, and it does pump a lot of money into the town. So
It
that's
does, yeah.
cool.
It
We
pumps a
love
lot of
that.
money into Louisville, and that's why I think it's so great that that all this is coming to Louisville now. So really, there's all type of opportunities, like you said, for actors and even if you're a stand-up comedian, because it goes hand in hand together. I tell people stand up
Yeah.
and acting, so it goes all hand in hand. So there's a lot of opportunities, and I thought that was so great because now like you said, they have this stereotype of us being, like you said, t-shirts and drinking and that type of thing. But
Right.
now Kentucky's more than that, especially in Louisville and Lexington. So you have to understand that. And that's why I love more than anything. Um, the way things are going here, and I can see the direction it's going in. A lot more people gonna start even coming here to Kentucky to shoot films. I think because it's going
Yeah.
so great, and you know that because everything that you're doing there. So you know how that's going. So I just think more people gonna come because
What
it's a great place to do it.
What's great is every movie acts like a postcard for the state.
Right?
When you
Yeah.
do a movie and they see that
Hmm.
there are talented people here. They've got modern buildings. It's not just people chugging alcohol on the street, or
Right.
something like that.
Hmm.
I remember early on there was a Steven Seagal movie that was shot here,
Okay.
and you know this is back in the day, and
Right.
he wanted to make Kentucky look even more trashed. He
Right.
shot in some of the local places, and he said,
Mm.
no, we need, more rusted cars, up
Mm.
on cinder blocks and everything like that, and we need,
Right.
uh, just more trash in the yards. And it's like
Right.
that doesn't help us
No, I
when we
don't.
do that. But when we can do these other movies, and it can be shot in any city, but it is shot here,
Right.
that brings more in,
Yeah, it
and
does.
that's what we want because
I've
in some ways, the fun thing about casting is, I like to say I feel like Santa Claus sometimes because I can give some people their dreams. Some people just,
right.
we did a Hallmark movie, and
Mm.
you'd be surprised at how many people, I've always wanted to be in a Hallmark movie, a Christmas movie.
Right.
Okay, and I get them in for a day. They make $100,
Right.
and they just have fun. And they may never do it again, but they're going to talk about it for
Right.
like 20 years,
Right. And
and that's
that,
cool.
that that's great alone, and also it just networks itself when you do these movies, whether it's acting classes or doing movies, it just networks itself because they're gonna tell other people about it and it'll be like, oh, it was just so much fun. It's
Right.
supposed to be something you're trying to be part of. So
And
I
and
just
that's another thing I try to do on a set is, yeah, I mean, you were right. The long waits, you got to figure it's at least a 10-hour day.
oh yeah,
Now, you may, depending on the scenes, you may get out earlier, but in general, you got to figure I may be there 10 hours.
right,
Okay. But if I'm working the set that day, I'm
Hmm.
going to be talking to you. I'm going to be, telling you jokes. I'm going to
Right.
just make it fun. I'm going to be explaining what you do, you don't do. I'll tell movie stories or something like that.
Right.
So people don't feel like, it's a boring 10-hour days.
Right.
Now, sometimes on some sets, and this was true when I was out in Los Angeles, they
Hmm.
basically put you in a room and nobody talks to you for like 8 hours. And then
Wow.
suddenly someone comes in and says, quick, you're on now.
Right.
You know, uh, and that's no
Right.
fun at all.
No, it ain't.
Yeah, I try to make it a memorable experience. So again,
Right.
whether you do it again the next week in the next movie, or you do it never again, at least just, hey, I did this. This was
Right.
cool. Your friends ask you, what did you do yesterday? Yeah, I was on a movie. I hung out with Orlando Bloom. That kind of
Right.
thing, or Jennifer Lawrence or something like that. And it's just like, yeah, that
Yeah.
that's a
That's
cool
cool.
day.
That's cool. I kind of, as far as audition, I've auditioned for a couple movies. Auditioning, I tell people, you have to really be real. Like you said, Hollywood, they put you in the room. They also, okay, now you're ready. We're ready for you. When you audition, you have to be ready any moment, anytime. Because when you audition, you're on their time, and when it's time, and when you only gonna get so much time to try to for them to see you, to impress them, to get that part. So you got to be ready to deliver. If you got 2 minutes, 1 minute, 5 minutes, whatever it is. So I tell people, be ready when you audition, and
And
definitely
that's
be
where
patient.
acting lessons help, and things like
Right,
that. Just getting used to it again. The more you do it, the easier it is.
right,
Um, and at this point, I've probably put a well over 25,000 people
mm,
in movies, TV, commercials,
mm,
live entertainment, things like that,
right.
over the years, which just means I'm old. But
Yeah.
I've given a lot
Are
of people
you all
the
right?
single biggest thing that helps you
Hmm.
is looking comfortable on camera.
Yeah,
So
true.
just there's a lot of pressure because yeah, within depending on how I do in this 10 minutes is going to depend on whether I make, maybe a $10,000 job and get to kiss a major movie star,
Right.
or I don't get anything. So there's pressure there, but it's like the Will Smith concept. When he
Hmm.
first came out, he just blew up because he looked like he was having a good time. He was just so
Right.
comfortable on camera.
Hmm. Yep.
And that's what you need to do. Yes, acting can be difficult if you want to take it up to that next level, but just to get that first job, just
Yes.
relax. And again, it's like you on the stage when you do your comedy. If
Yeah.
someone's tense like this, the audience isn't going to laugh. They're going to feel the tension.
Right.
But if you go in there and you enjoy the audition process, you're going to make the director, the casting director, the other actors, everybody feel comfortable, and they're
Yes.
just going to enjoy it. So it's getting your mind into yeah, okay, this is my shot, you know,
Hmm.
step up, the Eminem song, that kind of thing like that.
Yeah.
Um, but just go down. It's like, yeah, I'm dealing with people and I'm going to play. There's a reason they call it a play. Uh,
Yeah.
and that's the cool thing about kids. When you look at
Mhm.
little kids, they have no fear.
Oh
They
no, they
just
don't.
play.
Yeah,
You
they
know,
don't.
you
They
do
don't.
this and I'll do this and okay, let's do it. Oh, here we go.
They
And they don't
no
mind
fear.
looking foolish. They don't mind doing something that someone's, well, I have to jump off this building here and do that, whatever. They're
Right.
just cool to play. Uh, But over the years, what happens as adults, we get all these voices where people say, you can't do that or don't do that, or watch
Hmm.
out, you're going to forget your lines or you're going to fail
Right.
or something. And you have to just work through all that and just go back to down being comfortable.
Yep.
And when you see someone who's comfortable on stage or, on camera and they enjoy themselves, that's someone you like to watch.
Yes. And that's why I tell people. That's like with stand up. I'm
Yeah,
comfortable in front of the light. It's because I've been in front of the light so many times. I'm comfortable. But you'll be amazed because I do go to these open mics at Louisville Comedy Club, which I'll be at next month. Think of it is, a lot of them don't understand. If you ain't been in front of that spotlight number once, twice, 4 or 5 times, I'm just gonna throw some numbers out there. You're not gonna be comfortable like you said you need to be
right.
in front of there because you haven't been in front of that light. A lot of them get in front of that light and they forget what they was gonna say, how they was gonna deliver a joke, the animation, whatever it may be, because they're not comfortable. Yeah, nervous, of course they're nervous. And it's just being a human being, but they're not comfortable being in front of the spotlight. That's all it is. And a lot of people are. Most of the veteran comedians that they've been in so many front of the spotlight so many times, they comfortable in front of the spotlight.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
the other people, the same way with actors, they comfortable in front of the spotlight. Even if they mess up their line, they still comfortable. They'll keep rolling. So you have to understand that until you've been in front of that spotlight a whole lot. And I tell people all the time, it is not easy to be in front of that spotlight because when that light's hitting your eyes like that, and you know these people waiting to listen to you and everything, it's not easy. Same way with acting. When they say action, and they waiting for you to make that move, and you sitting there like, oh, everybody's watching me in the spotlight. You got to deliver, and some
You got to
people,
deliver. Yeah.
yeah, you got to deliver. So
But
I wanted to
but
say this,
again,
man.
you know, if I can just say again
Yeah.
with that, the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Yes, yes,
Just
it
go out
does.
and play with it, you
Yeah,
know, and take acting classes, or
yeah,
you know, just make a YouTube video with your friends. You know,
yeah.
just get used to that. A lot of the people, you know, you can see on TikTok or whatever, as you know, when they first do it. This is my first TikTok, you know, that kind
Right.
of thing, and they're just like,
Yep.
and then after a while they're doing it, they're just talking to the camera and they're having
Yeah.
fun. And
Oh,
you know, as
this is
human beings, we love to watch someone have fun. I mean, you see a football game and you know they spike that ball in the end zone with a touchdown and they do their dance, and we love that, you know.
right,
Or you see somebody dancing and they've got this grin on their face as they're doing it. They're just having a good time, and
right.
that's what it's about, you
Yeah,
know.
it is. And it seems like this generation, they about going live on social media. I get all that, and that's probably more they think of being in the spotlight. Some of them, not all of them. But with that said, I do say, because I'm speaking on this right now on YouTube. YouTube is very big. I tell
Mhm.
people you have to,
Absolutely.
and that's like you said, that's where you can start off at. So you have to start somewhere, and on YouTube is very big. So just do it. That's the main thing. Just get out there
Just
and
do
do
it.
it. Just do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I wanted to, like I said, get out of here on. I guess before I get out of here, I want you to put everything that you're doing, how to get in contact with you, as far as your links or whatever, whether it's your social media platform. Because I want people, because I'm going to run this podcast again. I can run it anytime I want. I'm in control of it. So I'm gonna run it again, and just in case somebody's watching it, I want them to be able to contact you. I want to get started in acting or filming, whatever it may be, whatever their genre is, and I'm sure you'll help them out. They can get in contact with you and start their acting career or whatever, filming or whatever it is they want to get into. Because especially if they're here in the city of Louisville, and you ain't got to be in Louisville to do this, or in Kentucky, and wherever you're at,
Pretty
you help
much everywhere
right, everywhere.
there's
Yeah,
something that you can do. You can, you
yeah,
know, there's theaters, you know, churches have performances, you know, sometimes, or schools, whatever you need to do, you know, just get out there and do it. And as
yeah.
you say, you know, YouTube is easy, and it's something that they never had before.
Right.
You know, many years ago, if you shot anything on a camera, you had to buy film, you had to get
Oh,
it processed,
yeah,
and you had to convince someone to show it.
yeah.
I mean, you've got a camera on your phone that's better than a lot of cameras used to be, that were $30,000 just like 15 years ago.
Right.
And
Yeah.
with YouTube and everything else like that, you have a place to show it that possibly could reach people all over the world. You know,
Yeah.
that's just an amazing thing. So take
It
advantage of it.
is. It is.
But to get a hold of me,
Okay.
I put a lot of things on my Facebook page,
Okay.
and that's Academy Arts Entertainment.
Okay.
So look for Academy Arts Entertainment on
Mhm.
Facebook. You'll see me, actually, a picture of me smiling more because I was taken in the Caribbean at the time. So
Oh,
yeah, I
okay.
was much more relaxed than I have been today after
Right.
teaching this 5 6 hour class. Um, and that's a good way. Just like and follow that. And I post about the different classes. I post the casting notices. As I said,
Hmm.
just this past few months, put hundreds and hundreds of people in movies, you know, paid
Hmm.
jobs, you
Yeah.
know, and there's always commercials coming around that I can put people into. Uh, but you got to want to do it, you know, and you don't have to make it as a career. If you just want to try it out for fun, just to see if you do it, and just so your friends, you know, you sit around and you know they're all sitting there kicking back, and it's just like, well,
Hmm.
what you do yesterday? Oh, I just hung around. Well, what you do today? Well, yeah, I was in a movie. Oh, by the way, that's me on TV right there. Ah!
Well,
You know, that kind of thing. That's a cool moment.
it is, and it's cool being in the movies. And I'm glad you said something about cell phones too, because it's got me thinking. I'm about ready to put together. since I've been. This is my 5th year with my podcast. It'll be
Cool,
my
cool.
5th year next year, and it's truly a blessing.
Congratulations,
And
man. That's great.
it got the birth off of Cove 2020 when I could get on stage, so that's how it got the
Yeah,
birth. So with that said, but I really want to do something with my phone where I do a documentary of following me for the stand-up comedian, some of the things I do, and that's what I'm going to try to work on because like I
perfect.
said, we got these cell phones, and you need to utilize them to where they can help you, really get out there and do some things, So you just got to know how to use them. People have shot movies with cell phones now.
Yeah.
This is where we at today.
Well, I mean, the new cell phones are 4K.
Yes,
That's the equivalent of 35 millimeter film. I mean, there are
yes,
differences in textures and
yes,
color corrections and everything like that. But there was a time where you didn't have access to that unless you had a ton of money.
yep,
And now you
yep,
do. And now, yes, you can get someone to just follow you in a documentary, and your story is out there,
yep,
so people can see what you do.
hmm,
And the nice thing about acting is that you have the opportunity to inspire people. You know,
yes,
somebody else who's sitting there just telling, not feeling good about themselves. They're not doing anything creative. They're just making it day to day. And yeah, I get that. We've all been there at some points, but you get to bring them a little joy with your stand up, some laughter. People
yes.
need that stuff these
Oh,
days.
oh yeah, they do. And my big thing on this podcast is LSI. I got to explain what LSI means to you. Which it
Okay.
means learn, share, and inspire.
Love it.
That's
Love
the
it.
big thing on my podcast.
Good for
LSI,
you,
learn,
man.
share, and
That's
inspire.
fantastic.
That's what I'm all about that and my self growth because in order you got to learn, you got to share, you got to inspire, and that's what it's about. As people, and we going through everyday life because especially in today's time with the way things are. But if you can learn, share, and inspire, you can and work on your self growth. You can really just be who you are, and that's why I tell a lot of there's some comedians that have asked me different questions when I've been up to the Louisville Comedy Club, and I tell them, I said the main thing for you, even if they just starting out or whatever, I said you got to know who you are up there. I said
Yeah.
it's just like an actor going to go do go acting, and he's not even acting the role. I mean, he's not being that person. You got to know who you are when you get in front of that camera, because if you don't, it's gonna be not be good for you. So you gotta know who you are. And that comes with, like you said, repetition, doing it all the time. Like you said, getting in front of the camera, doing it all the time, every day, if it ain't gotta be every day, but doing it once a week, twice a month, whatever it is. But you gotta do it. You can't do it once every 4 years and expect it to excel. So that's why I tell people. So you gotta know it. You got to do it in front of the light all the time, and that way you can be better at it and grow from it. So more than
And
anything.
I like your, learn, share, and inspire. Basically, that's
Oh, I love that.
life.
Oh
If
yeah.
you do that in life, whatever you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
you get to learn, you get to share that knowledge, you get to inspire others. That's a life well lived, buddy. That's what you get out there. And
Yeah.
it stops it being just me. I'm in it just for my own personal gain or my own personal fame or something.
Right.
Um, you just leave something behind for other people. And the cool thing about acting, especially in movies, um, I mean, you look at a movie like It's a Wonderful Life,
Hmm.
shot in the 1945, still shows at
Right.
Christmas
Mm.
every year.
Wow.
Everybody in that movie is dead,
Mm.
but still people will watch that movie and some people will just feel great. They
Yes.
left something behind. They left their voice. They left,
Right.
a message, and they can still touch some hearts, and lots of movies are like that,
Yeah.
whether they're touching people's hearts by scaring them or just
Right.
making them feel good or,
Hmm.
something like that, or even letting them know that love is possible.
Yeah.
You,
You.
you touch hearts, you know.
You. I got to say this. It's almost like I'm giving you flowers while we sit on this podcast. You have always been built for this, for what you do. I got to
Thank
say that, and you're great at it. I'm just going to give you because you are. You always have been. You still the
thank you.
same way when I mean, at your acting class. You just great at it, and you were built for this. There's no other. I can't see you doing nothing else. I can't see you. Being a thorn to somebody. You just built for this. I just had to say that. Because some people are built for certain things and certain jobs, and you are built for this. That's all it's to it. Because been doing this for years, and you steadily excel, and you just built for this. Just wait, just
Thank
everything.
you.
But I have to give you your flowers. You really are, and And I learned something from you too when I went to your acting class, which I've used in some of my movies, you know. So
Well,
just
come
keep,
again to another one,
and I need
just
to.
for
I do. I
fun.
need
Just sit
to. I
in on
need
the
to.
next one.
I
Just
need to bring some people too, and I'm gonna tell some people. And let me just say this too: if it's, I need to pull some stuff off your page and put on my page, so I let my people know that are following my page, so they can come out and support what you're doing, because they
cool.
just don't know how great you are at this, you know. And I want them to understand how great you are at this. So, but
Thanks,
man, it's
buddy.
been so great doing this podcast with you, man. And
I
I really
loved it.
enjoyed it. I really loved it. I'm gonna run it again so everybody can see it. I got people commenting. A couple people said great takeaway. A lot of people just commenting. So, and that's all great. So, with that said, you've put out the Academy Arts. You said Academy Arts,
Academy Arts Entertainment. Facebook is probably the easiest way to connect.
Facebook.
Um,
Okay,
and you see how Vin Morielli is spelled. So if I have a casting, usually what I'll do is I'll put the casting notice and then ask them to email me.
okay,
So you just do Vin Morielli at iCloud is usually the best way,
okay.
iCloud.com,
Well, I got
and
you. I
send
got
in a picture,
you.
um, name, height, age, and some pictures. And if there's a movie out there, we can get you in. Let's give it a try. There isn't always, but again, this year's been good. I've done the
Okay.
three, and it's only the beginning of April, and there's two more that I'm attached to that
Mhm.
hopefully they come in before the end of the year, and those are sort of big.
Yeah, I'm going to pull some stuff from your page and put it on my page, because I just want to support what you're doing, and I think it's great for what you're doing here, for not only for this city but for this state, and for just for entertainment. You're doing great things, and
Thank you,
I
brother. I
appreciate
think the same about you. I mean, you're putting
that.
this out there, and again, your live, share, and inspire. I think is a message everybody's got to hear.
Yeah,
And that's great of you to do that. Because honestly, in this entertainment business, not everybody feels that way.
yeah, you're
Um,
right. That's
so
true.
when
You're
you
right.
find someone else who's putting their heart out for other people as well,
Yeah.
that shows you're a good man.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm trying. Like I said, and a lot of that has to do with it's come within time, and you know how that goes after time. And this year, I said to myself in 2025, I'm all about my self growth, and I've been working on it. And I just let my self growth
Right?
speak for itself and shine for itself, and it's a beautiful thing. So,
It is. It's a great thing. Good
yeah,
for you, buddy.
yeah. But I tell you what, like I said, I enjoyed having you. I'm gonna let you go. Just keep doing what you're doing. And from the way it looks and the way I feel about this, I'm going to have you on this podcast again. So, because I just like what you're doing, man. I'm all about entertainment. You know that. So,
Yeah, you are. I
so
love that.
and I'm definitely gonna have you on here. But I really appreciate you being my guest. And thanks for everything you've done. And I'm definitely going to say share some of your stuff off your page. Just keep doing what you're doing, and I'm enjoying what you're doing. I'll definitely be watching. So
Well,
thanks so much. I'm gonna try to
thanks
get
for
you on.
having me on. This was
No
fun.
problem. No problem. No problem. I had to have you on. All the great things you're doing. No problem. So,
Well,
but
let's do great things together, okay?
sounds good. Sounds good for sure. All right. Well, you enjoy the rest of your evening, man. It was nice having you on my podcast, and keep doing what you're doing, man.
You too. Bye
Okay.
now.
Bye. Well, yeah, it was Vin Morelli from Academy Arts, and he's just one great person doing great things here for the city of Louisville, state of Kentucky. Please go out and support what he's doing. I'm going to put a lot of his things on my page. If you're trying to get into entertainment or acting, some type of acting, he's the man to go see. If you're trying to learn how to act, he's the man to go see. Even in filming, he's the person to go see. So please go see him. And before I close this out, make sure y'all subscribe to my podcast on YouTube and listen to my podcast on Spotify. BHLC podcast. I'll be back here the second month of May, right after the Derby. The Derby Saturday, first month. I don't know who my guest is going to be, but I'm working on that. But please continue to support my podcast, and I just love them. Also, make sure you come down here to 1401 South Shelby Street. They got karaoke up till 10 o'clock, and then after 10 o'clock, they got the DJ in the back. And I think after midnight it's $10, but before then it's like $5. So, and they got LIT drink and a marijuana drink, like I said earlier, for $5, which that's like a nickel bag. You're gonna be messed up. So, but thank y'all for tuning into my podcast. Y'all have a great evening, and I appreciate everything you've done. I appreciate everybody's comments, and let's just keep supporting what I'm doing here. And like I said, it's all about LSI. When you're out there, learn, share, and inspire. That's what it's about. Learn, share, and inspire, and make sure you're working on your self-growth for in 2025. I love y'all. I see y'all. I think it's May 10th. I see y'all May 10th. It's been a great evening. Enjoy the rest of your evening.